Payton Polychrones with Samson Properties. I'm a realtor and I just got my broker's license. I checked today and it came through Depot. It took 2 months to do, but they did it.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very excited. So I've been an agent. I think I just crossed my 10-year mark recently.
Beautiful.
I serve the entire Northern Virginia area. I've bought and sold in 14 counties within a 100-mile radius. That is a pretty rare thing. I would say that's what it is. I'm not one for plaudits, but I was awarded Rookie of the Year at a previous brokerage, and I won Agent of the Year for my office for 2024 just a couple of weeks ago at our award ceremony. So I'm really proud of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And then, as you said, with over 9 years in the industry, what motivated you to pursue a career in real estate, and how has your journey evolved over time?
That's a great question. Well, as a kid, I had a passion for performing, and I thought at one point that I would go into education, music and performance education, maybe an elementary school music teacher. But when I went to college, it wasn't the right time for me. My family was going through a transition. My parents were struggling. My grandfather was ill. It was nobody's fault but mine, but my focus shifted away, and I ended up coming home. And I worked for my dad for 12 or 13 years at the flower shop, Michael's Flowers, that they've had for 65 years here in Northern Virginia. Yeah, very proud of that. But, I was getting toward 30 and Dad was only in his 50s and not really ready to step aside, understandably. And it was time for me to kind of grow up. So my stepmom and my mother kind of double teamed me from different angles. My mom was really big into me pursuing real estate because I was a big talker. And my stepmother was working part-time as a real estate agent, and I was watching her kind of flourish and grow apart from Michael's Flowers, where I'd kind of grown up. So I took the test, passed, and then sat on it for a year. And then, my girlfriend at the time, I'll be honest, we got pregnant. It was time to make some big boy money, and I went part-time and then eventually shifted to full-time about 2 years after I started my career.
Okay, yeah. So you've been on quite the journey.
That was a lot. Yeah.
No, it's okay. We want to get to know you. So thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
And then, as a lifelong resident of Northern Virginia, how has your deep connection to the area influenced your approach to real estate?
Oh, that's a fun question. Well, it helps that I know where everything is.
Yeah.
A lot of folks in our area are transient. They're military. It's about a third of maybe half my business year over year. People from out of state will do video tours. They don't even know where to get pizza or where to put their kids in daycare. They're Googling it or asking ChatGPT where to what church to go to. And not that I steer people, but they ask me questions and I can help to guide them. Oh, you might want to look over here for soccer or look over here for baseball or whatever. And I feel like that provides a unique opportunity. And then I love Virginia. I think that's part of it too. This is my whole gig. I was a small business, family, blue collar growing up, and my whole family's always lived here. And I think my clients, I hope they can tell that I really have a passion for Northern Virginia. I think it provides tremendous opportunities and there's a lot of fun to be had. And as we all know here in Leesburg, you go west or south and it's, a little bit country too,
Yeah.
which kind of gives you the mountains and the apples and all the other kind of fun Virginia stuff. So yeah, I think that helps.
We get the best of both worlds everywhere here.
Yeah, I always say that because I live in West Stafford, and if I go 5 minutes, I can be at a McDonald's, but I pass a cow on my way. If I go 10 minutes, I'm at Target or 2 Starbucks, but I pass 2 farms. And if I go west, I could drive literally all the way to California and never pass a town because I'm right on the edge.
Yeah.
So again, a little bit country, a little bit rock and roll. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, and then on, is it east or west where you pass 5 Wawas or both?
Oh my gosh, it's like a 5-pointed star. I didn't mention. So where I live in Stafford, I am 15 minutes from 5 Wawas, which I guess is cool, but also kind of rednecky. I don't know. It's fine. It's I come by it honest, but it is kind of fun.
Nice. And then your profile highlights a commitment to providing an educational and supportive client experience. Can you share specific strategies or practices you employ to achieve this?
Of course. So my grandfather was an educator in the floral industry. My dad is too, and I, like I mentioned earlier, really wanted to be a teacher. So once I kind of got my legs under me, it was first my mentor, Pam. Pam was amazing, 10, 11 years ago. She helped me with my first few deals, kind of showed me how an agent could help another agent. And then as I began to grow, I went on a lead team and was quickly put in a small leadership position among the team members to kind of help them grow. And then my mentor he was an educator and started a business coaching program, and I was brought on to be a coach I think we did Zoom sessions with over 100 people. And my approach generally is rigorous preparation. Imagine you're in 7th grade giving an oral report in science class. You're nervous because you didn't do the reading. You know what I mean? If you're talking about your favorite cartoon show, you're up there for 5 minutes taking questions, it's no big deal. But if you're talking about Johnny Tremaine and the book report you were supposed to do, you better have read it cover to cover. And so as I got further and further into educating people, I realized that it's really important to stay in your lane and make sure you know the rules of the road, to kind of use a metaphor. The idea that just like I said, rigorous preparation and putting communication forward and remembering that as an agent, it's very important that we always take a back seat. And anytime you feel like you're steering, you're doing it wrong. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We don't wield any power. So the minute an agent feels empowered is probably a slope they're sliding down to get themselves or their client into some trouble.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the approach I take to coaching as well.
Wonderful.
Collaboration and kind of active listening too.
Very cool.
Yes.
I'd like to ask you about marketing and what you're currently doing to get the name out there and the word out there about your business. Are you big on videos? I know you said you used to have a podcast. Maybe
I
you
did.
want to start that up again?
I actually thought about it. I got a little bit of the bug. We'll see.
Oh, yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. We got to we went for a year. It was like 20 episodes. And I was like, okay.
Pretty good.
And then it wasn't too bad. But I'm ADD. What was that?
Yeah. So what are you doing right now for
Marketing.
marketing? Yeah.
Right. Pretty proactive. Really excited because I'll start with my big thing is I have a client event in June. I do them at least twice a year. I've partnered with the Fredericksburg Regional Food Bank. They have a summer nutrition program for kids who rely on school meals like once or twice a day for their nutrition. And they estimate that it's 4,000 to 5,000 kids in the Rappahannock area that come to them for sustenance during the summer months. So with the Fred Nats baseball team and the Fredericksburg Food Bank, we're going to do an event this year and hopefully raise enough money to feed a couple of kids through the summer. Every dollar is 2 meals. So
Wow.
look it up, donate. But I mean, everything, postcards and emails and flyers and personal calls. I try to do 3 or 4 coffee or lunch meetings a week just to see how people are doing, shifting more away from transactional and more to relationship-based stuff. And that's been my focus for the last few years. And it's been pretty fun, honestly, shifting from, a growing business where you're really focused on accruing the business. Well, now I've done 200 or 300 transactions. I've got a big database of people that I've worked with that I like. So now it's like, oh, hey, let's just go have breakfast and see how you're doing. And it fills my cup. And then, maybe their cousin needs to buy a house 3 months later, and that's a great benefit. But ultimately, it's just made me enjoy my job a lot more, kind of connecting on a deeper level.
That's great. The personal touch too, because a lot of people like being able to connect with others. And if there's it's kind of just maybe like a text, which is okay too, but I think it's better in person.
You got to break through. And it's that we live in a glutted world of input. And when you can get face to face with someone and remember their kid's name,
it means a lot.
You do care about them, and then you remind them that you care about them. I think it helps. But I do day in the life videos and Instagram and all that stuff too. It's you got to be everywhere these days.
Yes, you do. You know that. And then how do you tailor your services to meet the unique needs of each client, especially in a diverse market like Northern Virginia?
Oh, wow. Listening. You just have to listen. I kind of speaking to the power thing I mentioned earlier. When I was a younger agent, you know less, you're less skilled, but you're excited and you're motivated and you're hungry and you bring to it enthusiasm and hopefully an eye toward educating yourself and growing. Now that I'm in my second decade and I have my broker's license, as I mentioned, I try to listen and then lay the breadcrumbs. Somebody says, this is where I want to be and this is where I am. It's really about digging in. Why do they want to be here? What's important to them? What makes this neighborhood, this zip code, this school, whatever it is they value, valuable? And how can I take whatever they give me and then move them this way? And part of it is by rote, it's the same process over and over, but a lot of it is personalized. And we talk a lot about managing emotional capital in around the water cooler, at least in real estate. I try to put that forward in my communication with clients. It's like, if you're burning out, let's take the weekend off. You saw that one last week. It wasn't great. Pacing it so that they can enjoy the process and feel enriched and empowered and not really worrying as much about the end result as it is making sure that the entire path forward is something that they can experience in a measured and controlled way, feeling always like they have their finger on the pulse.
For sure. That's good. And then can you discuss a particularly challenging transaction you've handled and the lessons you learned from that experience?
Ooh, particularly challenging transaction. That's a gotcha question. No.
Gotcha.
For those of you over 40. Oh my goodness. Difficult transaction. Sorry to pause for a second.
No, you're good. Yeah, take your time.
I find the ones where I can't quite connect as a teacher are the ones where I feel like we encounter the most friction. They give me a mission and my goal is to help them reach it. They're the king and queen, I'm the white knight. Take the hill, get the castle, I'm going to do it. But you also have to be able to collaborate, to meet on a human level like we talked about, to receive what they give you and then be able to extrapolate, with critical thinking and experience, what that really means to them, and then help them guide through the process. And there have been transactions, clients, situations where, to my best effort and their best intentions, even with successful keys getting handed over, it's just like you can feel that this wasn't the one. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We never quite got on the same page. And early on in my career, it was devastating to me not to be able to do that. Now it's like, okay, well, I was just an agent, and that's okay. That's a certain percentage, and you move on, and you still send them the invite to the fundraiser.
Yeah. Yeah. How's it been developing thick skin? Could you give maybe some tips or advice to people or just
Sure.
let it happen?
Yeah, well, first 10,000 hours or more on a phone answering phones at Michael's Flowers was a big part of it.
Okay.
I remember early in my career, one of the best first notes I got was like, well, your phone voice is whatever. And I'm like, well, I put my 10,000 hours in. Good morning, Michael's Flowers. How may I be of service? And if you can get yelled at over like the wrong ribbon color on a $30 corsage with a line out the door of people picking up and not cry or yell or go curse out your boss, you can definitely slowly work your way toward being able to navigate this industry where we're far more richly rewarded, both intellectually, emotionally, and financially.
Yeah.
That being said, I did start for the first like 7 or 8 years of my career on online lead conversions. And you make a lot of calls. Those rates are usually 4 to 5%, so 1 out of 20. And you got to just learn those other 19. It's not about you.
No.
You're just waiting for that one. You know what I mean? You don't blame the rocks for not being gold when you're panning at the river. You just keep panning,
So you
and
get the gold.
and let your knees pop and get back to work. And so I think that's just repetition, honestly.
That's good advice, actually.
Yeah, you just got to get to it. One of my old mentors was like, if you're afraid to call your mama, how are you gonna feel calling a stranger? You know what
That's
I
a
mean?
good one.
So it's like maybe start with her to warm up a little bit, and then go where the
And then
water's
go there.
warm.
Yeah. I haven't
Exactly.
heard that one, but now that it's recorded, maybe other people can pick up on it too.
It's something I remind myself of almost every time I pick up to call to say hi to people, because it can be like, I am their realtor. It's like, why is Payton calling? And then I'm like, breakfast. But they didn't know that until they picked up the phone.
I'm glad I picked up.
Yeah, sometimes I will start with my mama.
And then, how does your involvement in the community enhance your ability to serve clients effectively, in your opinion?
Part of our job is building homes. I mean, not constructing homes, but creating a home for people, taking a very small role in a huge decision. And to be able to do that, you need to, like I said earlier, understand them and their needs and their wants, and also why they gravitate towards certain things, being able to bring those things together. And I feel like keeping that always as the center of the bullseye, the center of the target, is really the way to thread the needle on that.
Yeah, love it. And then, is there anything unpredictable or surprising that you've learned about yourself through being in the real estate industry that's surprised you?
That I was meant to be a performer and a teacher, honestly. That maybe going the traditional route and being a musical educator, as I'd originally hoped, wasn't my path. But the part of me that is most fulfilled by my job is making that connection and seeing that moment of realization in a person's eyes when they go from thinking something that I do every day is impossible, and then realizing, oh no, just do these 3 things and it's done, or give it to Peyton and he'll do it. And seeing them go from afraid or uncertain or thinking it's impossible, whether it takes a month or a year. And I have a listing I just sold, it's 2 years, blowing her leaves, nurturing her, and we're great. We hug. It's like Sandy. I'm gonna miss her. She's in Tennessee now. Sandy, if you're here,
Shout out.
I'm just saying. So I'd say that is the most enriching part to me, is realizing that I somehow stumbled into what I was meant to do and found a way to make it exactly what I wanted to do in the first place.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that for you. And tell me, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years as a person and with your business?
Community outreach, I think, on a local level is particularly important these days. And so I've prioritized, what is the use of success? What is the use of power if you can't wield that to serve? And again, speaking to building communities and building homes is a small part of that community as a realtor. Everything I can do to enrich the lives of the people that I'm serving reminds me that I'm in a service industry. It keeps me grounded and humble. It keeps me focused on listening and serving, and not the glitz and the glamour and the self-congratulations that a lot of salespeople can fall into, that I myself earlier in my career may have fallen into at certain times. So it keeps me humble and focused. And I think it also makes me a more whole person. I'm in a better mood. I'm in a better mental health space when I interact with people, because I can know in my heart I've done at least a small thing to contribute beyond just buying and selling and living.
Yeah. And on that note of mental health, what do you like to do to set boundaries for yourself, or do you have boundaries? Are you still working on it?
Sometimes.
Yeah, talk to me about that. Give us some tips.
One of my other mentors, Jack, he taught me early on in our relationship to embrace the asymmetry of our schedule, which is, as a realtor, there are times when my phone doesn't ring and then it'll ring 5 times at once, and you can't always control when that is. So embracing that, yes, I'm on the phone on a Tuesday at noon, but I get to be at King's Dominion with my kids. I'm not on the lazy river, but I'm in a lawn chair and I can see them, you know what I mean? And I'm making a deal happen. Or I enjoy Christmas break because it's a little slower that time of year. But then, yeah, in April or May or June, when folks are really popping, everybody knows when daddy's phone rings, he's going to need a minute. So I think over time, growing more accustomed to that asymmetry has allowed me to find peace in my scheduling, prioritizing the times with my family with absolute focus, and then the times where I have to work, like today, with absolute focus. I'm gone 14 hours. Call me if you need me. But then tomorrow I got almost nothing on my schedule, and I'm going to spend all morning with my toddler. And that's a rare thing that most dads don't get to do. Mine didn't. He works 6 days a week. God bless him. So it's a rare thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible that you're able to live like your journey, your career, and being able to have that time to spend with your family, but also be your own boss, set your own schedule, and help that and making an impact in the community. That's hard to do sometimes. So yeah.
It is a challenge, but when you again, it's if I'm keeping my eyes on the prize, if I'm focused on my priority, which is being present for my kids, supporting them, feeding my own spirit, keeping healthy, like those are the things that really they light my fire, and then you bring that to work, just the same as I bring the successes from work home and be able to share that mental and physical and emotional stability as well.
Yeah. Now tell me this. Are you still able to practice music or delve into that, or have you kind of put that to the side completely?
Well, my son plays piano, and I still tinker, but not as often as I should. My dad asks me like every third time I see him, "You've been practicing?" 35 years later, I'm sorry, not as often as I should. But we work really hard. We're the sort of people who sing in the kitchen and in the car. You know what I
I
mean?
love that.
So encouraging that, I think, is the biggest thing. Just musicals, and took my son Miles to see Back to the Future, the musical at Kennedy Center last year, and
Yes.
trying to just bring it into his life as much as possible. My father, my mother, my grandparents were all really musically inclined in the sense of like enjoying that as entertainment. So I'd say that's how I try to marry it to my life now.
That's great. That's a
Yeah,
nice
through
balance.
appreciation.
And did you play an instrument? Sorry, I'm just so curious.
It's
I'm like,
okay. I played piano and I was a singer. I sang
oh,
a lot. Yeah, no, I did like, that was 20 years ago, but I was like in musical theater and stuff. It was a lot of fun. And that said, getting that little acting bug is definitely what fuels my real estate career
that's
because
awesome.
I'm a little shy, but being able to be purposeful in my interactions with clients and friends allows me to have the confidence, like I mentioned preparation earlier. Like
Yep.
I know my industry. Go ahead and ask me if it's a good time to buy. We'll talk about whether it is for you. And I feel like that confidence and that little itch of performance definitely is what makes me shine a little brighter than maybe some other folks
Yeah,
in
I
my
feel like
industry.
you've got that charisma.
I thank you. That's generous. At least the enthusiasm, if nothing
Oh,
else.
yeah. Oh, speaking of more of those serious terms too,
Mhm.
what are some challenges right now in the real estate industry that you are seeing, and do you think we'll be able to overcome them, or how do you see that you would better prepare?
Hmm. Well, inventory is improving over the last couple of years, which has let things ease up a little bit. But the hardest thing, I think, honestly, on a deeper level, is that 2 generations of people have had artificially deflated interest rates, which, again, not to get too inside baseball, has created both a very modest expectation of the cost for or the barrier for entry for homeownership, and also the equity growth or price increases we've seen locally, especially with the thriving economy we have here in Northern Virginia, can create a really high barrier for entry for like really hardworking folks. So a big part of my focus as a professional is again trying to take people who think it's impossible, and then I have one client I'm working with now. They've been in my hopper, you know what I mean, in contact with me for 18 months, working through long-term consultations with lenders. We meet for coffee like every 3 or 4 months and check in. And finally, this year, like June, she'll be finally ready to make her first home purchase.
Yay!
But it really is like you have to take someone early on and not be afraid to put in that work to get them from A to B. And then they get to open that door. And once you get in, you're in. You're in the club. You own a home. And then, 5 years later, you can make that dream happen. So I think every challenge is navigable, but I would say the realities of affordability and the perceptions of affordability kind of marry together to create a climate that can be difficult to navigate if you're not really skilled.
Yeah, but that's why you've got Peyton over here. So hit him
Hopefully.
up. He'll be able to help you and
Yeah.
help navigate you in the
And the
best way.
determination, exactly.
That's right.
As a client, like you have to know it's going to be a challenge, but it's worth it. You have a home now. Like it's awesome.
The dream,
Yeah,
right?
it's amazing.
Is there anything that I have not touched on that perhaps you would like to share with our
Hmm.
listeners, your listeners? Anything about yourself, your industry, maybe misconceptions, a fun fact?
That's a good question. I think, well, okay, I'll go industry. Set higher expectations for the performance of the people in my industry. There's a fairly low barrier for entry. I know because I crossed it when I worked hard, but like it wasn't that hard. It takes time to become skilled in any profession. And as they say, 90% of homes are sold by 10% of realtors. It doesn't have to be me or one of the people I know, but don't take less than you deserve. It is hard. The interest rates are higher than they've been before. Prices are higher. And if you don't have someone who's willing to spend a year coaching you up and guiding you through it and staying in touch, again, me or anybody else, expect better.
Mhm.
You know, we have the skills, and if we don't, find someone who does, because there's
Yeah.
somebody out there who's hungrier, who's more motivated, more educated to make you succeed, because you're the one in control. You're the one with the dream.
Yes.
We just help you find the silver lining.
That is a great message because I've heard some situations where people are like, okay, my uncle, he sold one house one time. I'm going to go to him just because he's my uncle. What are your thoughts on that, or tips or advice?
Interview your uncle. Give him a shot. See what he says. You know, it's always an interview. It's something I took a couple of years to realize, but I've interviewed for jobs like 500 times, 1,000 times, like on a front porch or in a kitchen or in my office or on the phone. It's always an interview, which can be hard to get adjusted to, but it holds you deeply accountable. And so I think always keeping, again, focused on that reality is how I personally stay focused on that goal.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right, final question, I promise. Do you have a quote, saying, or a mantra that you like to live by, or that you would like to pass on to your kids, or maybe you were told something that inspired you, and would you mind leaving us with that message?
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
No
Let me
pressure.
think just right. Oh my gosh. A mantra. Something my dad says, but it's too silly. I can't.
No, yes, please.
You got to risk it to get the biscuit.
I love
That's
that.
the first thing that came to
You
mind.
gotta risk it
It's
to get
ridiculous.
the biscuit.
Scared money don't make money. Basically, you have to take those chances. You can't be afraid. You got to burn the boats. You got to commit to your path. Learn whatever it takes. Do whatever it takes. Love whatever you have to love what you're doing and who you are. And make the sacrifices necessary on the sides to focus on the core values that you have as a person, as a business owner, as a parent. I think it's the most essential thing. Cut the fat and focus on the real objectives and don't get distracted.
Yeah, those are great words of wisdom. So I thank you so much for sharing
Thank you
them.
for
And
the
they're
time.
funny too. So bonus for
A little
me.
bit.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate you
It was
being
great
here.
meeting you. Thank you.
You're welcome.